Today, I'm rebuilding the manual shifter for the Toyota W50 5-speed transmission. This came from my 1980 Southern Parts truck, and as you can see, this dust cover is all ripped up, which allowed all kinds of dirt, sand, and grime down inside of the shifter. Meow. Good boy. So, the right thing to do here is take it all apart, clean it, and put it back together and replace any gaskets. This is southern red dirt mixed with some kind of oil, and when I cleaned the frame, I found there's nothing that easily removes this stuff besides a lot of gas and wire brushing. But now I have the laser cleaner. This is the FLC200 by Fortune Laser. It's a 200 watt pulsed laser, and it removes more than just rust and paint. I made a full video all about it that I'll link in the description if you're interested. Next, I painted the clean parts with self-etching primer, and then a couple coats of gloss black engine paint, and scraped this old gasket from the cover. The paint has had 24 hours of cure, and now it's time to reassemble the shifter assembly. However, these gaskets no longer exist, and you can't buy them from Toyota anymore. So I picked up a pack of universal gasket material from Napa, and you can see there's 4 different thicknesses. So the thickest one here is the exact same as the lower gasket, and the thinnest one is the closest one I have to this little guy here. I started by making the gaskets. This little one that goes under the cover ended up having a missing piece, so I wasn't going to be able to get a perfect template from the original gasket. So I flipped the base of the shifter upside down and used it to trace the outline of the gasket, and then used the rubber seal to draw the inside of the gasket, since they were the same diameter. Next, I traced the gasket for the base of the shifter. Cutting these out took a while, but a fresh blade on my X-Acto knife would have probably helped. I couldn't find my hole punch, so I had to cut these holes out by hand as well. I ran a slightly larger drill bit through the holes to even them out and get them perfectly round. And I cleaned up the edges of the paper gasket with the razor blade. This is the rubber seat for the shifter, and it just pops onto the top of the base like this. I put a little bit of multi-purpose grease on it, and some grease on the ball of the shifter. Be sure to get some grease around these pins as well. The shifter handle has a slight bend so that the top angles toward the driver, not toward the dash. Then, my homemade paper gasket. A little more grease on the inner side of the cover, and around the top of this curved piece that rests against the cover. And drop the cover down over the shifter. Next, reinstall the 4 bolts that attach the cover to the base. And I'm putting a little grease around the hole on the inside of this rubber dust cover. A little on the shifter too. And that helps this rubber dust cover slide right on. I'll put all these OEM part numbers in the description in case your shifter is as bad as mine was. And then the edges tuck around over the outside of the metal cover. This extension was originally glued on with what felt like rubber, so I might need to go back and glue it on if it comes off. Then comes the boot and the trim ring. Let's go install it in the truck. I took the shifter off because it needed rebuilt, but also to gain some extra clearance when Mikey helped me drop the cab onto the restored chassis. This truck originally came with an automatic, but because I'm now using a 5-speed, I had to weld up the old square hole where the auto shifter was and make a new round hole a couple of inches farther back toward the driver. So before I install the new shifter is the ideal time to fill the transmission, and that takes 2.7 quarts of 80 weight oil or 80W90, and make sure it's the GL-4, which is kind of hard to find. Most of the stuff is GL-5, but this needs to be specifically GL-4 for this W50 transmission. Nobody had this around me. I ended up finding this on Amazon. I'll put a link to that in the description. Now, I taped this off a long time ago when I removed the shifter so I wouldn't get any dirt or any overspray on it. And I didn't have the tape going all the way to the edge, so I'm going to wipe that off with some brake cleaner on a blue towel just to make sure that I get a good seal here where my gasket meets. And this will also remove any sticky residue left over from the tape as well. It's green. I didn't expect that. I guess it does say the original green oil right on the label. And in goes number 2. And it's 2.7 quarts, so I'm only going to be using about 0.7 of this one. So I'll stop a little over 2/3. Wipe up any drips. Just put on a little bit of extra multi-purpose grease on the end of the shifter. And remember, the shifter itself, front of the truck is over here, angles forward like that, but then the handle angles back toward the driver. And I did check before, and there is a way to fit this through here. Kind of a puzzle. No, this was the right way. It was close. There it is. There we go. Now, here I reach the bolts. How many will I drop? Just get them hand snug for now, and then once I get all 5 in, I'll go back and torque them. 2 of the bolts were easily accessible. The other 3 were not. I time-lapsed this because it was an absolute pain and took 10 times longer than I thought it would. That was frustrating. I used a magnet to pick up the bolts. I kept dropping through the floor. And then finally I got this 1/4" guy here, 12-point socket, but it worked all right. And that was the key to reaching all of these bolts. Now the next piece that's going to go on is the boot and this little cover trim ring thing, but I never actually drilled any of the new holes. There should be 4 around the edge, so I need to make this, use this as a template and get those 4 holes drilled. So this top boot here is no longer available anywhere, so I just got to make do with this this tear here and just call that good enough. And right now it's an extremely short shifter, but this part here goes back on top like that, and we're good. 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And being that this was an automatic truck means that I only have the center console for the automatic shifter, which is farther forward than the manual. So if I go to put this on, I don't think it's going to work in all gears here. So it's going to sit about like this, and as I shift into 2nd, it's going to move it back. So I went ahead and left this bracket in here just so down the road I can custom build a center console that's going to work around this, maybe even get luxurious and add a couple of cup holders or even a speaker, because this one speaker up here in the dash has probably seen better days. But there is how to completely disassemble and rebuild the shifter for the W50 transmission. Stay tuned because I am so close to getting this truck back on the road. Thanks for watching.